up, guys? It's Nike. I wanted to do a quick video regarding the Condi PS rotation. The long story short is it's kind of a frustrating rotation, especially if you're trying to replicate what QT and Goku do in their benchmarks. A lot of it relies on the RNG of critting. If you guys aren't aware of the fine points, you have the trait Furious that gives you double adrenaline when you crit. This is very, very useful for being able to use your burst skills on cooldown. Especially the last Flaming Flurry when you swap to Sword, you want to be able to make sure you can get that last Flaming Flurry off to get that 7th burst per rotation. Well, in a Condi build with full Vipers, or mostly full Vipers, you're only going to have, with full buffs, around, let's look, where's my crit chance? 71% crit chance. Clearly, that is not going to be enough to ensure that you are guaranteed to crit all the time. Which means very, very often you will fail to crit on one of the very important ones. Specifically, when you first swap back to Sword, if you're trying to replicate their rotation, and you use Blaze Breaker, you're counting on the Blaze Breaker to hit 2 or 3 times, and ideally crit all 3 times in order to get the Flaming Flurry off. Additionally, sometimes you will end your longbow rotation with a Fan of Fire, and then swap to Sword, and then get that Blaze Breaker. If all 3 Fan of Fires don't crit, or only 1 crits, you're going to be in real trouble when it comes to getting that last Flaming Flurry off. And anyone who's tried to do the rotation exactly perfectly as they did, including them, will be the first to tell you that it's really, really cancerous to keep having to re-roll RNG until you get 4 or 5 Berserks perfectly in a row where you land all 7 Flaming Flurries. So if you're trying to equal the benchmarks, you're basically just re-rolling RNG. Once you develop the muscle memory to do this, to press the buttons fast enough, from that point on, it's just re-rolling RNG. So with that said, there is what I think to be a more practical and better way to do it. It will cost you a little less DP. It'll cost you a little bit of DPS on the Golem compared to a perfect rotation, but in the long run, especially in a real raid situation, it will actually benefit you. So this rotation, Quantum, who was in D&T and is in QT, and some other guilds like HG, came up with this rotation, and he posted a short clip of it on his YouTube channel, but I don't know that a very large part of the community got a chance to see it, so I thought I would do a video talking about it, because after playing with it for a while, it's just worked out way, way better and more consistent. Essentially, the only difference is you do not use Blaze Breaker. When you swap back to Sword, you don't use Blaze Breaker and roll RNG to get that Flaming Flurry. Instead, when you finish the longbow part of your rotation, you go Fan of Fire, then you go Shattering Blow, which will fill your adrenaline, and when you swap back to Sword, you immediately Flaming Flurry. It's the same time. The cast time of the Blaze Breaker and the Shattering Blow is the exact same. The only difference is there is literally no RNG with Shattering Blow. You get full adrenaline no matter what. So the Blaze Breaker, that RNG roll is out. So what do you lose? What you lose is you don't get to use Shattering Blow on cooldown. Instead of getting to use Shattering Blow every 15 seconds, you only will use Shattering Blow at the very end of your longbow rotation. So you're basically losing 1 Shattering Blow every cycle of the rotation. So that's a little bit of DPS. The other thing that you're losing is you're only going to get 1 Blaze Breaker per rotation. Whereas sometimes with the rotation you'll be able to get 2 Blaze Breakers per switch. So what does this amount to? It amounts to versus the benchmark DPS, maybe like 1,000 at the most 1,000, depending on your skill as a player and your ability to replicate the QT / Goku benchmark. You might lose a little bit less, might lose a little bit more, but against the benchmark, you're only losing about, I'd say, an average of 1K. You might say, oh, 1K, that's a ton to lose. Difference is, with this rotation, every single time you will get 7 bursts. You will not fail, if you do it properly, to get 7 bursts every single time. What that means is, in a real raid situation, you will end up doing more DPS overall, because in a real raid, there's going to be dodging, there's going to be times where your alacrity drops off. In the end, it's going to benefit you a great deal to do it this way. Additionally, if we actually looked at a golem rotation, and we say, instead of using the 4 million HP golem, we use a 10 million HP golem, well, you can imagine that since a large part of the rotation with the min-max rotation is RNG based, if you used a 10 million HP golem, eventually you would get bad RNG, and your DPS would drop. So my thought is your DPS is eventually going to drop with the min-max rotation, whereas this rotation will be consistent and across the board. So in the end, the DPS of this might even be a little bit higher if we take the mess-ups due to RNG into account. So anyway, with that said, I will do a quick video of the rotation so you guys can see it. Essentially, again, if I can summarize it, you do the exact normal opening. You get the 6th Scorched Earth. After the 6th Scorched Earth, you're going to Fan of Fire, then Shattering Blow, Swap to Sword, and Flaming Flurry. And that's really it. You just want to make sure you save your Shattering Blow for the very end to refill your adrenaline to get the Flaming Flurry. If you do that, you'll get 7 bursts every time, and your DPS will be consistent and smooth, and it's just a lot easier of a rotation, and I hope it works out for you guys. If you have any questions, hit me up in the comments below.